The Bloody Podcassacre with Zac Walters and Kennedy Catherine.
Hello.
Hi.
I really just jumped in.
You love to come in hot.
I know. And you know what? It's my trademark.
Hot, fast.
Welcome back to the Bloody Podcassacre.
It's a program run by myself, Kennedy Catherine.
And myself, Zac Walters.
And today we're here to talk about a movie that we're not sure we have a lot of feelings about, but boy, are we going to fake it till we make it.
That is true. It's called Anything for Jackson.
I just about said anything but Jackson, and truly,
It really...
it should have been.
When it really comes down to it, Jackson's in it for like a minute.
When it gets to the end of it, it really was anything but Jackson.
You're right. Another Shudder original coming to the plates of Podcassacre.
However, if you are someone who is looking to watch it elsewhere, it is available with certain Amazon Prime subscriptions.
Good to know. Good to know.
I watched this yesterday.
I watched this a couple of days ago.
You had notified me when you were watching it that it was, well, we were texting about something else, and then sporadically you would give me a little update on where you were at on the scare meter. You were spooked a couple times.
I really was.
I myself was spooked a couple times too.
It really is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's like, it's layered in a lot of ways.
I was thinking about this. The best way to say what it is about this movie is that it's polished and it doesn't have like a lot of like fatty substance around it where it's like, it feels like it's overdone. And that's what I think I liked about it.
Yeah. Do you want to just go through it? I can tell us all about it and then we'll talk about it because I don't want to give anything away with my thoughts.
Because I think all of my points are mostly based around like the story. It's
plot related.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Here is the story of Anything But and for Jackson. Anything for Jackson. Grief consumes the lives of Audrey and Henry Walsh since the deaths of their daughter and their grandson Jackson, which manifests in these otherwise quiet, well-to-do couple joining a local satanic group. They learn about an ancient demonic book that can bring back the dead, so Henry tracks it down in Jerusalem and purchases it in exchange for the retirement plan. Henry, who is a gynecologist, decides to use the unborn child of one of his patients, Shannon, a struggling young woman with family hundreds of miles away, as the vessel for Jackson's soul to be implanted. Audrey tries several trial runs of the ritual on dead crows. When those are successful, they decide to go forward with their plan. They kidnap Shannon and keep her captive in a soundproof bedroom in their home. The moment they conduct the ritual, paranormal incidents start happening around them. Evidently, when they invoked a demon to open the gates of purgatory so their grandson's soul could pass through, otherwise twisted and tormented beings came out as well. Henry sees a woman who keeps flossing her teeth out of her gums one at a time. Audrey is haunted by a ghost wearing the costume that her daughter used to wear on Halloween when she was younger. Shannon has to watch helplessly as a spirit with a plastic bag over his head climbs up on the bed, to which she's handcuffed before Audrey manages to get into the bedroom. The curse seems to quote-unquote deal with anyone who gets too close to the family. An overly friendly snow shoveler puts his head into the snowblower while the detective investigating Shannon's disappearance shoots herself. The dichotomy between how normal, pleasant, and kind the Walshes are and how depraved their actions become serves as the main plot. They know that what they're doing to Shannon and the unborn child is evil, and they never offer an ethical justification for it because they know that there is none. But they're not indifferent. They care deeply for the well-being of Shannon and the fetus. It's a form of twisted guilt and hope for resolution in their grief, which is more true for Audrey, who was behind the wheel on the day of the accident. Her grandson was killed instantly. Her daughter became a wheelchair user who later committed suicide, unable to cope with the loss of her son. For Henry, it's much simpler. He's doing this because he loves Audrey. When Shannon asks how many people have to die so they can bring their grandson back, Henry responds by saying, maybe all of them. He's not a believer in their actions, and as a result, makes mistakes, but has no qualms about doing whatever it takes if that's what Audrey wants. Realizing that they're dealing with forces that they don't understand, the Walshes enlist the help of Ian, a reclusive fellow member of the cult. After arriving at Henry and Audrey's home, he quickly surmises that the ritual is only halfway done. They still have to make a sacrifice, preferably the life of the mother for the condemned. For Ian, this is the moment his life has been leading up to. He murders his mother and writes occult symbols on the wall before coming to the Walshes' home the following day to perform the ritual. The moment he realizes that everything he believes in is true, he snaps. During the ritual, when Shannon starts resisting, Ian stabs Audrey, mortally wounding her. As she is also a mother, she is as viable as a sacrifice as Shannon is. Unbeknownst to the Walshes, he decides to use their ritual to summon the devil. When Henry realizes it's too late, Audrey is dead and the ritual is complete. As the contortionist spirit reappears and terrorizes Shannon, he does the only redeeming act he can do at the moment. He frees her. As she leaves the house, she sees every single nightmare that has taken up residence there in the last few days. Henry was holding Audrey when Ian completed the ritual and sprinkled his blood on both of them. With Audrey dead, the devil rips open Henry from the inside and emerges. In the closing scenes, as she's driving away in the detective's car, Shannon spots the devil ahead of her crossing the road. It stops, stares at her, and then continues on. The camera focuses on Shannon as she presses her hand to her belly. She's relieved that both she and her unborn baby have managed to survive this horrible ordeal. End scene.
You know, this movie's scary and horrific and, like, has a lot of good, gory moments and, like, not really jumpy moments. There's a couple, but really at the center of it, it's this, like, story about two human beings, like, literally trying to do anything. And,
to
like,
get back someone they love.
And, like, just to, like, have, like, a slice of their humanity again. Because everything that they have was lost tragically at the hands of them in some sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I say that there's layers to this movie, the emotional aspect of it doesn't really intersect with the horror of it. In terms of, you know, in a Hereditary or something, their grief becomes part of the psychological scare. That doesn't happen in this movie. This movie is very visually terrifying, and then the emotional aspect of it almost exists as like a separate thing.
It's very surface layer.
Yeah, you'd use that sort of to justify the actions of these people, because at no point do you really villainize them.
No, you become sympathetic to them a lot, because Audrey as a character, she isn't trying to be malicious. And she's very caring for Shannon the whole movie. Like, she doesn't want to harm her. She just really wants to get Jackson back. And I think we've all been there where it's like...
Have we? Have all of our grandsons and our daughters died?
But we can relate in some form of, like, you want the best for you and everybody else, and you try so hard to get it, but, like, you have to hurt somebody else along the way, even though you don't want to. That's not true.
I really don't know.
No, I'm really just spewing out of my ass for that
Then
sentence.
I've had that experience, that I deeply hurt someone along the way of my own success.
Overall, it's very interesting because you feel for the victims, but you also feel for the perpetrators of what's happening. The only person you do not feel for is Ian, because fuck Ian and his awful haircut. Worst character of that whole movie. I mean, he was the real antagonist of this movie. Every moment he was on screen, I wanted him to leave.
Do you know what's an interesting fact about him, though? Is I don't know his name in terms of the actor, but he auditioned for a couple of really small roles in the film. He hasn't really been in much. I guess he provided such different auditions that the directors were like, oh, he's incredible. And so they cast him as Ian because
acting-wise, he was great in the role,
yeah.
but, like, the character itself of Ian, not a fan of.
No.
It was a very stereotypical, like, quote-unquote Satan worshiper, because Satanism and, like, the Church of Satan has nothing to do with worshiping Satan.
Right.
Which is something that a lot of people don't know.
Satanism in and of itself is actually incredibly interesting. So if you have the time and you're interested,
I do have...
You should look up some resources.
I have the Satanic Bible in my room.
Oh, do you?
I haven't read it, but I just want to... It's very interesting. I want to read it more for, like, an educational purpose versus, like, I don't worship Satan. You know, like, that's the whole... The Church of Satan is more of an atheist, all-welcoming kind of group. People portray it as a devil-worshipping thing. And so Ian, as a character, is definitely that portrayal of, like, a Satanist, quote-unquote, is, like, that devil worshiper where all they want is for some evil to rise up that's going to save the day for him and his whole life is going to be better. That's why I don't like Ian, is because I think the character was... But there is people like that, I guess, when you really think of it, that probably do worship Satan.
Yeah. Well, not even so much worship Satan as much as his character really reminds me of sort of incel QAnon adjacent personality types.
Yes.
So
very much so.
That definitely exists in some realm. One thing that I do want to sort of clarify from the plot description, just because this movie is so new, I kind of had to throw something together.
Build it on your own, yes.
Yeah. in reading it, I realized the explanation almost sounds as if Audrey has persuaded her husband to do something that he doesn't want to do, and that she's sort of like this menacing, gaslighty person. That's not it at all.
No.
He's a super willing participant. He's doing this out of love for his wife, who is a very sort of meek character. She's not domineering in any way.
He really went to a lot of extremes to make sure that they were safe. For instance, when the snowblower man, I don't know if he ever had a name. He was there to clean the snow. Just like literally just like a nice guy trying to help them because they are elderly people.
They're not. I was listening to another podcast about this, and one of the hosts said they're at least in their 70s. No, these people were probably in their early to mid 60s.
Wonder how old the actors actually are.
I would assume that she's in her early 60s, and he could be in his mid to later 60s.
She is 65, and he is 66.
That's what I thought.
So there is the man who comes to help them, literally just offering a helping hand, and ends up with the spirit trying to protect the family, putting his head into the front end of the snowblower, shooting his head all over the garage.
The roof of the garage really gets some spray going.
Which was, I think, a great scene.
I really liked it.
It was just, like, shocking. It kind of reminded me of a scene in The Happening with by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yep.
Do you remember that movie?
I do.
Where the person laid in front of the lawnmower.
Seems weird that we haven't done an M. Night Shyamalan movie yet.
Well, the only one to talk about is The Sixth Sense.
The Village.
I tried watching it 2 months ago and I could not get through it.
Wait, have you seen it in its entirety?
No.
Zach.
I couldn't do it. I was so bored.
You have
and all
to.
I could think about was Scary Movie 4.
Do you know how it ends?
No.
You have to watch it, please.
I'll try.
Even
again.
fast forward through the parts that you've seen. Give it another shot.
Okay.
Because it's really good.
I did watch Signs for the first time this year, though.
Signs is also a great movie.
Yeah, it was very good. Kind of what I expected, but I very much enjoyed it.
But I know what you're saying about that scene. I think it maybe is in the trailer that he starts to put his head in, because that was not a surprise for me at all.
I went into this movie completely blind. Okay. I didn't watch any trailers, didn't have any knowledge other than gonna watch this movie. So I think that's why I really liked this movie more than you think. You liked this movie, but I was like really gung-ho about it.
Yeah, and it was also just a find for you, whereas for me, it was something we had decided to do at that point.
Right.
I mean, in quarantine, what else is there to do but legally smoke marijuana? And I had done that. And so I put the trailer on for my roommate and I to watch to decide if we were in the proper headspace for that. And we were not. And I think that I already had it in my head that I was like, no.
Fair.
But I did really like it in certain ways. Really like it is probably a bit of a stretch, but I did like.
I think the parts that I liked were all of the like ghost characters.
Yes.
Because they, at the end of it, were truly, truly terrifying.
I want to pull up my notes that I kept while watching it, and there was not many, but here are some of my notes. Well, first of all, I just want to say that when this movie opened, the first shot is a wide of the kitchen.
Yes.
And I love a well-lit shot like that with those sort of muted tones, a lot of filtered sunlight. Something about that, and I don't know what exactly... what the reasoning was behind it, but immediately my mind thought of Parasite. And I think it was just the simplicity of the home, perhaps. And it was so unexpectedly quiet, and they were so normal.
Yes.
And then from there, they immediately they go, oh, on schedule. And then they walk out of the house and they kidnap this young girl because they've learned her walking schedule. She must live nearby. As they were pulling her in, I could not help but think, kidnapping just seems too loud for me.
Fair. Also, they like keep the front door open for a prolonged time, and then Audrey finally comes and it's just like, click.
Yeah, they're so calm.
They really planned this out. They have every step planned out to soundproofing the bedroom, seeing if, like, having her at the appointment and figuring out, like, Shannon is the one that they are going to use. She has no family that's close by. She doesn't know who the father is. Everything is so planned out. So, like, it almost seems like when they went and grabbed her... Sorry, I was thinking actually, their house faces, like, not really a lot.
They also have a very fenced-in yard. They
have that kind of, like, protection, almost. And it doesn't seem like they have a lot of visitors either, other than the man who decides to help them with the yard work.
Yes.
And everybody else they know is dead. Sad but true.
And I think that's kind of the beauty of the characterization and the casting of this movie is you're like, what is this woman in this sensible sweater set doing? I am not casting judgment on these people's looks because they're fine-looking people.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them together is the most absurdly bony, birdy-looking couple. It is wild. There is a part where they went to hug, and the idea of their bodies, like just their bones rubbing against it, I couldn't.
You're not in love anymore.
And you know I love marriages. You know I get invested in marriages.
I do know this, yes. But this one,
no, thank
off
you.
the table for you. I get it.
I wanted a platonic marriage only between these two birds.
One interesting thing that I saw online about this movie, we talked about it, but it was described as an anti-nativity scene. I said nativity, weird. But that...
In what way?
It's because the director, like we talked about, had only directed Hallmark Christmas movies.
The director and the writer of this movie had been a team who only ever made B Christmas movies together.
And it's like, that's honestly, let me tell you, that is the dream. To work for Hallmark and just to do all of those movies nonstop, a goal.
It is.
It really is.
I think people think poorly of those. As a writer or director in the oversaturated world of film where it's impossible to make it, honestly, that is a dream. To have consistent work where you know your shooting schedule, you know the formula of a fucking Christmas movie. Like, that truly is.
And there's like, what, 3 every year that come out?
Yeah.
It's just a perfect film job.
Yeah, it is.
In every sense. Hallmark.
Get at me.
Hit us up. But yeah, so people thought it was like, well, just one person was saying that it's like this anti-nativity scene. Why do I keep saying anti-nativity scene? I add an extra I in just because of this whole separation from this happy Christmas. Sometimes Hallmark movies are religious. It depends.
Sometimes they love a Jesus moment.
Yes, I never will. Since it's like this rebelling against that because that's all he's known and done. Yeah. That's why people think it. But also because, you know, the devil does come and there's a woman who may or may not have a demon baby.
Absolutely. She could Rosemary's Baby this bitch.
That's the one thing I also did like about this movie is that it ended so ambiguously.
You know, everything I read had said she puts her hand to her belly at the end and feels relief that her and the unborn baby have managed to live this horrible ordeal. Mm-hmm. I didn't get that.
No, I put that like, I think that she will get a child whether or not it's hers, but she's going to be followed by this figure for the rest of her life because it's now maybe also this demon's child. That was my interpretation of it because it really just kind of stops with that demon figure crossing the road. Mm-hmm. The writer Keith did an AMA. Yeah. I think they both actually did, but it was mostly Keith answering a lot of them. He said that it was interpreted to be like basically a gateway between the worlds was opened and that the demons and ghosts were going to be free to roam wild. I mean, our guesses are better, but I don't think that she's just going to live in bliss for eternity, you know?
No, I don't think she's escaped having demonic rituals practiced on her and just got out of there scot-free.
Yeah, no way.
That said, you could go a couple ways with that theory because that curse had become sort of confined to that family and seemed to be focused on them, and that family is fully eradicated by the end. None of them are alive.
That's true.
When Ian comes into the home the first time, he says Jackson is not in her. So if something is in her, they definitely didn't do the ritual properly to put Jackson into the fetus.
Because, well, when we are leaving, we as in Shannon and like us escaping, we do see Jackson in the window. We do see Jackson in the window temporarily because he gets picked up and kind of taken away by these like white arms. My guess is that Audrey probably takes him. They are safe together now.
Oh, that's good.
You know, in the end, they are with Jackson forever now because both of them are dead and they're in the house with Jackson.
That is kind of beautiful.
And
I just
with
wanted
her daughter.
Audrey to be happy too. She made me really sad. She was a very sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about the writer, the house that was used in this movie is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting looking house. It was the writers in Toronto.
It's so nice when you can just be able to give up your house to film a movie.
Yeah, this movie was very low budget, which I don't think you could tell.
Not at all.
I thought it was a beautifully made movie, and the CGI or the effects that they did use, it wasn't super corny.
No.
Or poorly done.
The only one where I was like iffy about was the actual demon at the end, I think.
I can't even picture that right now.
It felt like it was like a weird skin suit.
Oh,
in a
yes.
sense.
Yeah.
But like even like the gore and the blood that splashes on from the snowblower, that was so well done.
It was.
The teeth with the flossing, so well done. There's a lot more ghosts in this movie. One of them is one that lives under the bed. I don't know if he lives under the bed, but that's where he originated from in this movie.
He definitely doesn't live under the bed. I don't think that's like his perpetual home.
Why
but
not?
I can't definitively say. But that was the first moment that kind of brought me out of it. Because I didn't understand. Okay, here's kind of how the sequence of events goes with the ghosts. They don't realize that they've let something ambiguous into the home until the day after they perform this ritual. They think they've kind of like, Jackson's in there, closed deal, great, moving on with life. Henry wakes up in bed the next morning and Audrey's at the sink brushing her teeth in the bathroom, in their ensuite bathroom, and he's talking to her and she's brushing her teeth. She turns around and it's this spirit that is flossing her teeth out of her gums, and it's not Audrey.
And one tooth at a time. I just can't even.
It was disturbing.
Yes.
However, the spirit is just warped enough, and you go from Henry thinking it's Audrey to, for a moment, I thought it was a version of Audrey.
Yes.
So then when the next spirit appears, and it happens to be this ghost thing that lives under the bed, I didn't understand that we had like switched realms.
Yeah, that was confusing. However, I do want to say that one was the scariest one.
The teeth flossing one?
No, the bagged man.
Contortionist.
This person who is a demon, while Shannon is still chained to the bed by her handcuff, comes out from under the bed and is crawling on all fours with his chest to the ceiling. Kind of like an exorcist walk,
like
you
a
know?
crab walk.
Yes. But has a plastic clear bag tied around his head and he is suffocating, making these weird, like, low moaning noises, but crawling all over the place. And he goes from the edge of the bed all the way to the opposite side of the room, and I believe just, like, kind of stands up and then starts crawling back towards Shannon. And I was like, I never want to experience that.
No, thank you.
Like, the teeth flossing, like, yes, terrifying, could kind of be like, okay, stop. You know?
But also, he's not confined to a bed.
I know.
If he wanted to fight the woman flossing the teeth out of her head, he could have done it. He didn't. He cowered in the corner because he is, what? A bird. But she was chained to the bed. Like, all she could do is, what? Close her eyes and hope for the best?
And that's my biggest nightmare.
Yeah, truly.
Is the only thing saving you is closing your eyes.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
No, and I never want to experience it.
I have had it twice. And it was, the second time, because I'd had it before, wasn't as bad. The first time, I don't wish that on anybody. It's awful.
The only thing close is one time I was laying, this was like 5-6 years ago now, I was laying in bed and I thought that there was someone standing in the corner of my room.
No.
And all I could do was just slowly move my hand to turn on the lamp. But like I thought somebody was in my room standing and watching me.
And what was it?
There was nothing.
Oh.
Like,
was it a feeling or did you see something?
it was a feeling of this, like, somebody's watching me in my room and I can feel them, like, staring. But fun fact, there was no visual effects that were on the, like, bagged man because he was a contortionist. It was all makeup.
He did an incredible job.
So in this AMA that I was reading, Keith was talking about how he went to Canada's Wonderland since it was filmed in Canada and he's Canadian. And
I think all of the actors are Canadian.
yes, they're Canadian legends, apparently, according to Reddit. I do not know them, but they are legends.
I recognize most of them, but as a lot of Canadian actors tend to be character actors. So, like, you recognize them, but you don't necessarily know them from any leading roles.
I think a lot of them were in Orphan Black, actually. Have you seen that show?
I haven't, but I know it. And I know
One
that
of my favorite shows of all time.
he was also in, had a recurring role in Supernatural. Henry
I did see that when I was looking through Henry, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so Keith was talking about how he went to Canada's Wonderland 15 years ago and saw Troy James, who plays the bagged contortionist man, dressed as a zombie chasing people around. And he watched for 30 minutes. And then when he was going through the script, remembered years later and started Googling him. And they found a video from 15 years ago called Canada's Wonderland Halloween Haunt called Bendy Guy. And eventually came in contact with him.
That's the best I could do. Bendy Guy.
Well, like, whoever made it, who went to
Got it.
Canada's Wonderland, made, like, this really shitty video.
Got it.
But it's of him, and they contacted him, and he was in the movie.
Knowing that that's real, that isn't, like, absolutely mind-blowing.
People who do that in scary movies, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was another one where it had a contortionist. Oh, I just can't.
I had to reach down the other day to pick something up off the ground. The sound that I let out, I turned back to my roommate and I was like, I simply cannot live like this.
We're so old.
Isolation
we aren't.
has ruined my body.
To be able to like crawl, walk from under a bed and like and stand up in the corner of a room and then go back onto the bed. Sir, pardon me. I can barely get out of bed for 8 o'clock in the morning, let alone do anything else.
Yeah, no.
One other thing which wasn't visual effects, but actually I hate in real life.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
You know exactly what I'm going to say. Audrey, when she finds her first entity that like is kind of targeting her, dressing up as her daughter's Halloween costume as a sheet ghost is what it is, trick-or-treating. Don't you oh my god, don't you dare. I know. I'm
so sorry. So sorry.
I saw the light leave your eyes and I was like, this is it. I'm dead.
You saw the light leave my eyes?
Yes. And fear encompassed them. That's all it was.
No, I had noticed that.
Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to act it out for you. Ready? Pure terror in your face. And I know that you weren't, I know that what you were trying to do wasn't, but in that moment, you literally were like, you're about to die. Goodbye.
For the audience, Zac has a photo over his shoulder that is...
It's the Phoebe Bridgers Strangers in the album in which
there's a
photo
sheet ghost
of
on
a
it.
sheet ghost painted over a child. You pointed at it and my first mind thought, dead, I'm gone. But then I was like, oh, Phoebe Bridgers. But then I still was reacting in a way that I was going to die.
You do know there's an entire wall behind you. What do you think could be behind you?
Remember when I thought my cat was up there? So anything is possible.
You're right.
Continuing on.
Yes.
Audrey's first encounter is a child in a sheet ghost costume trick-or-treating. It keeps appearing through the house even though she's trying to ignore it. At one point, she goes to... So they have an elevator in their house. The elevator was used for Audrey's daughter because since her accident, I don't know if she was...
She was in a wheelchair.
But was she paraplegic, maybe?
They don't really give us specifics.
It really doesn't matter. She was in a wheelchair, and so she needed to get from one floor to another, so they had an elevator installed. The one interesting thing, before I get into the really scary part of this, earlier in the movie, to set the tone that is an elevator and to show it, Henry randomly just gets in and goes up a flight.
I did not clock that.
It's right in the very beginning of the movie. They take Shannon into that and they ride her up in the elevator. And I thought they were putting her in a basement. But then you see their feet slowly rise up.
I swear to God, I had my phone on Do Not Disturb and I watched this movie and nope.
I could pull it up right now.
Right over my head.
Because I thought that she was going to push her down the stairs. Audrey just closes the door and then they slowly rise up and I was like, it's an elevator. Audrey now, after being slightly tormented by her child's Halloween costume, is watching the elevator rise by itself. Mm-hmm. Audrey first meets the child at the door saying trick or treat, as all children do. But then this child eventually goes into the house, moving everywhere. It's a ghost. It does what it wants.
It does the scariest run. That scared the absolute shit out of me. She's on the second level of
not a veranda.
Almost like a loft situation where she can look onto the first floor and she's looking at the ghost and it just takes off running into a corner and I was, no, thank you.
She eventually starts now wanting to figure out where this is going and it leads her to the elevator. As the elevator starts to rise, we see this shadowy figure and we can't fully picture what it is until the elevator is situated on the ground. The door slightly opens and there's this low voice. And it says trick or treat, but then this sheet ghost that comes out of the elevator is like 10 feet tall. I just absolutely hate when things that are taller than door frames duck and come out. Absolutely terrified me. I was like, no, thank you. Hate it. What is it about it?
I think it's just because it is something that we see in our everyday life, a human form, made completely unnatural. That's always unnerving. When you see something, you're like, that shouldn't be like that. And this is not tall shame. Zac hits his head on my light fixture anytime he comes to my house.
Every time.
Yes.
All of them. Sometimes I just stick my head in between it because it touches the top of my head.
I was having a fridge delivered the other day. When the guys were coming in, they were like, oh, we're going to have to be careful of this light fixture. I'm 5'3". Who was I to know?
Just take a string and pull it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't do that ever, but that's okay.
I will not.
Do you have any favorite scenes in this movie?
I wrote that the ghost scene was my favorite. Because it was...
Oh, the sheet ghost.
sheet
I was like, they're
ghost.
all ghosts. Kennedy, they're all ghosts. This movie is about
hate to
ghosts.
break it to you. No, this movie doesn't have a lot of jump scares.
No.
But they have a lot of quick scares.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the most prolonged scene of something terrifying happening. And so it actually did. I was like, oh shit, there's gonna be something scary. And it was.
It was. A tall man in a sheet.
I haven't watched something in a long time that just in that moment made me feel like, ooh, and this movie did that.
And I think that's why I liked it so much,
For
really.
sure.
Because it has those quick, like, and you're right, they're not jump scares. Nothing pops out at you, but it's like a quick, slow build-up where something happens and you're like, whoa, no thanks. It's a bunch of those. And that's why I think I really liked it.
The one scene that I did really appreciate is that when you're talking about this movie, I think it can sound super cheesy. Older white couple gets involved in a satanic cult. How does that work? But they don't try to be serious about it. They go for this meeting with this satanic cult, and it's just in a back room in a library.
Yeah.
It's like an AA meeting. There's tables in the back with snacks.
They have some, and they're all eating. They have some black candles in their hands.
Yeah, like they're not, in an underground layer trying to communicate with some demoness overlord or anything like that.
It's very Annie in Hereditary when tries
at the grief
to,
counseling
yes.
and yeah.
But then she tries, she gets trapped and tries to summon Charlie eventually. Yeah.
Right. So that's very much the vibe, if you will. These two are so absurd in trying to cast these spells, and I liked the night that they first tried to do the ritual, and this blonde bitch is reading from this satanic book in her black cloak, and I was just, pack it up, Sister Spellman. We got it.
And it's all in this, like, old Latin, and they're like, but it's very bad English phonetic Latin.
It's exactly what it would be if two old white people were like,
Let's
and
read
I
Latin out
think
loud.
we're gonna have to join a satanic cult for 3 months.
Here's my qualm. Learn to grieve, for one. 2,
Take some emotional responsibility.
take some responsibility. Yeah, just go. No. You're gonna get rid of your whole retired savings funds to buy a demon book from Europe in hopes that it works.
Okay, Jerusalem, but yeah.
Also, I did want to note that you said Jerusalem. Very weird. You say it with a Z. Jerusalem is what you were saying earlier.
I went to Catholic school where the word Jerusalem was thrown around a lot, and you got Jerusalem, you got Jerusalem. I mean, objectively, one of them is right, and I will admit here on this day that I don't know which one it is.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be brave.
I just want you to be brave because last time you said Graham wrong, and now we have had qualms. I have had qualms from people all over.
I will always be controversial yet brave on this podcast.
Okay.
I'm a master of the English language.
Tell us something we don't know.
And yet...
No, head empty, no thoughts.
Head empty, no thoughts. And this is not the first podcast that I've hosted. Criticism that I often received was that I blatantly say average words very wrong, like an American. Is
Interesting.
the feedback that I often get.
I say words wrong, but I just combine thousands of words together to create one sound. Like things like that, Plausibly.
Yeah. You like to take two thoughts and present them as one, which is great because it's time efficient.
Yep.
And I like to take one thought and present it as 5.
And here we are.
Anyways, your qualm
is that they decide to use their whole retired savings funds to buy a book from Jerusalem, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And then what? How are they going to thrive and survive? They're dead. Sorry.
Yeah, that seems to not be a worry.
Hypothetically, let's say that this book doesn't work and it's a scam. Now what? You're going to try to resell it?
Maybe.
Facebook binds.
He is also working still
You're right.
as a doctor. Now, am I saying that this was smart? No. Was it practical? Absolutely not. Was it a smart financial choice?
No.
As a financial advisor?
No.
I would say not.
You know what? You took off your English writing lit hat, and now you put on financial advisor.
And I don't think anyone can tell me I'm wrong when I say that these people made a mistake.
I don't really have a favorite scene.
I don't either.
I think it's just like all of those... It's the little bits and pieces of all of the scary ghosts, which kind of just all add up to one, which you're like... I liked all of that. 2 thumbs up.
Usually I have stronger feelings about the end of a movie, particularly if the main characters die.
Oh.
And in this one, I just had no idea where it was going to go. They never explicitly state in the movie at any point what they're going to do with Shannon when this is all over. She asks them many times, Are you going to kill me? Am I going to die? And all that Audrey ever says is the only and first rule that we have set for ourselves is that you never get hurt. But she'll never explicitly tell Shannon that she's not going to die. So I don't really know what their thought process was there. And so as the movie goes on, and Audrey clearly has some love and affection for this girl or woman, Shannon is like, I'll stay. You can keep me in a room, but I want to be in the baby's life. I want to raise the baby. You are getting old. At some point, someone has to be here to take care of Jackson. Audrey starts to kind of go for it.
Which, I mean, logically, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be... So what, you're
really
going to be
take that deal.
75 when the kid is 10? Best of luck out there playing Frisbee.
Best of luck out there.
I was kind of under the impression that that might happen.
Me too. It seemed like a plausible option and viable. It might just work out and that they all might become friends in the end.
I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I did not expect Audrey to die.
I expected Henry to die because it kind of felt like either he was going to sacrifice himself, in which he did. I don't know.
I sort of had this prediction of him dying, and then Audrey and Shannon cutting some sort of deal where they were going to...
raise the kid together?
Yeah, or something like that.
That makes sense, and kind of be like, I won't tell anybody if you don't tell anybody. We will just coexist.
Yeah.
Fair.
You'll be the grandma.
I'll be the mom.
Eventually you'll die, so...
Good luck out there. I think what will be fun for us to do this episode is instead of, we kind of have gone through some favorite scenes and moments, but I think that we should rank all of the ghosts from the least scariest to the most terrifying.
Okay, I agree with this. Let's do this.
One thing I want to mention that also in the AMA is that each ghost is very much on purpose and based on nightmares and nightmare analysis.
Oh, interesting.
So, like, obviously, losing your teeth is very prominent in a lot of people's...
That is my number one stress dream. I probably dream once a week that my teeth are falling out.
Then there's the dreams of suffocating, and there's, like, they all kind of represent a dream.
Right.
But it's all specifically also based on nightmares around the characters and what they've gone through, taking on that form of either trauma or fear or something in their lives at some point.
Interesting.
In that space. What do you think is the least scariest? Here I have 8.
You have 8 ghosts. Can you tell me what they are?
So I have the flossing girl.
Right.
We have the under the bed bagged man.
Yeah.
Baby trick-or-treat ghost. Mm-hmm. Tall trick-or-treat ghost. We have Jackson.
Right.
We have the demon itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have the snowblower man. Right. I have 9, sorry. And then we have repetitive cop shooter.
Oh my god, we completely missed that point. Well, I mean, we say it in the plot, but there is also a ghost. This was kind of cool. Henry comes back to the house and realizes that this detective has come in, found Shannon, and Audrey is cuffed. He's about to be cuffed too. Shannon starts yelling, "You have to let me loose," and everything. And then just out of nowhere, the detective just shoots herself in the head because she's been taken over by some sort of demon and influence at that point. And then throughout the rest of the movie, when they're trying to practice this ritual, because all the spirits are in this house, she's just in the background consistently reliving that moment. So she's just kind of off in the back, shooting in the head, getting dragged out of the room because Audrey and Henry have to drag her out at some point, and that just keeps happening. I thought that was cool.
It was cool, and then it was like also kind of a nice comic relief when Ian came in and he was scared. They were like, yeah, it keeps happening for the past hour.
This movie has quite a few comedic moments inside the absurdity of it all.
Yeah. What do you think was the least scary for
Jackson, because he was so cute.
See, I put the baby trick-or-treat ghost.
No, spooked me.
You're right. No, you're right. Because when it starts running...
And Jackson is intentionally adorable. Jackson is not a malicious spirit.
No, he never does any harm to anybody.
No.
You're right.
Then baby.
Then baby ghost. Yeah, me too.
Then probably for me, snowblower man, because he's not scary.
No, I just really like that whole scene of him sticking his head into the snowblower and the way that it was done.
Yeah.
For me, it was such a shock, whereas you knew it was coming. I put repetitive cop shooter next.
I'd put her after him.
Okay, see, there we were twisted.
Okay.
Next, I have the demon.
I was just going to say the demon.
The demon's fine. You know, your regular old scary movie demon, horns, hooves. Next.
This is going to be hard.
Next, I have flossing gal.
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I would go back to
interchangeable between
tall ghost
and
flossing
girl.
I am the same way.
Just because they're both such mundane acts, almost. Because like you said, they're very human. He's just walking like under a doorway. Not that scary, but for some reason we are terrified, and she's flossing her teeth and pulling them out. You can feel that pain, and watching someone else do it with dental floss, not it. So yeah, those two are interchangeable. I do think that Still Tall slightly goes above, just because if I saw that in real life, I would shit myself. And then last but not least, Contortionist. Terrifying. I think that's what really brought me in and sold me in for this movie.
I think it's also the sound that accompanies that. Like, the sound of someone suffocating is awful.
Yeah, and it's so... Every time he breathes, it's like this, like, trying to get air. And it's, like, haunting is all I can say. And I agree. Very well-rounded character. Thank you, Troy James, for acting.
Thank you, Troy of Wonderland, Canada. We love your work. Big fans.
Big fans. Side note, I just remembered what the other movie was where they actually had a contortionist.
Oh, what was it?
Channel Zero Season 4.
What?
Channel Zero. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's on Shudder. Go watch it all. 4 seasons. Canadian show. Each season's based on a different creepypasta story.
I had an office job for a blip when I took a break from my career. All I did was read creepypastas.
So, season 1's Candle Cove.
Is every episode a new one, or the season? Interesting.
So, season 1's Candle Cove. Season 2 is No End House. Season 3 is Butcher's Block. And then season 4 is... Oh, I can't remember.
But where the contortionist
is because she drew a clown as a child, and it's a contortionist clown that protects her. And so it is chasing everybody around.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, no, I'll watch that.
Mm-hmm. It was shot in Manitoba. Just outside of Winnipeg.
Did you know that Fargo is shot in Alberta and Calgary?
No. Did you know that The Messengers was shot in Fort Capel with Kristen Stewart?
No. There's a movie that was shot in Saskatoon as well that had the mom from the OC in it. It was a horror movie. So should we rate this on our regular scale?
Yes. Scary.
6.
A 6.5 for me. It has some good moments. It didn't stick with me.
So that's our next one.
Unsettling.
2?
In the moment, each scene was like a 7. But then after that, I was like, well, on to the next one.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I would give it like overall a 3 or 4. Boost it up a little bit so that I can...
Feel better, or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that night, my roommate went to bed, and I had a moment when I was sitting in the dark in the living room where I felt a wee bit spooked.
I was in my car and I was a little scared. I always hate that. It's like any scary movie you watch, I'm like, something's in the back seat, and we've talked about this.
I absolutely agree. Story.
I think it was probably like an 8.
I give it a 6 or a 7.
I feel like it was kind of new.
And it did stuff that I haven't seen in movies with similar formulas.
Yeah. Like, it had some, like, a little bit of plot twist with being like, oh, Audrey's the one who actually was driving the car. And there was some nice little moments where it, like, kind of gave, like, a little, like, push to be like, oh, something different is happening, which was nice.
I would say they did a good job of not revealing details immediately. Because even, like, you're not certain when the movie starts who Jackson even is to them. Like, is Jackson their child who died 25 years ago? Or is it, who is that?
Like a new, like, is it recent? Is it, yeah, you really don't know. And you don't even know if it's going to, like, what the theme is. Like, for me going in, I thought it was maybe just a kidnapping movie.
Right.
You don't know.
Well, that's why I texted you, because I get Zach to give me a head up if there's going to be sexual violence. And so I was like, oh, a couple kidnapping a woman, here we go. And it totally wasn't.
Yeah, and so very good job of being ominous. And like you said, without giving out too much detail too early on. And I appreciated that.
Me too.
Plus, how often do we really see older people being like the satanic cult trying to bring back somebody?
You don't, I mean, my mind immediately went to Suspiria, but that is so different and not similar at all.
The only other thing where I could think of was The Visit. That one's dealing with them tormenting children versus trying to get a child back.
And also The Visit is mental illness, and it's not Satanism.
I feel like it was pretty original.
I would agree with that. Overall, I feel like it was a good, easy watch, you know?
It was something nice to, like, very new, this movie. And so starting off 2021 with, like, this as new horror feels like a good way to go.
I agree.
It could be worse. Like, we could have really a D-list movie.
I love a review that just says, could have been worse. Everything for Jackson. I don't know.
Everything for Jackson? Everything but Jackson.
I don't know. I liked it. Well, that's it. That's the show.
No, it's not.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Don't you dare.
I almost left out our namesake. Was it a paper cut, or was it a bloody massacre?
I think it was one too many teeth falling out of a mouth. Sometimes you go and you have to get like 2 teeth pulled, and that's a lot. This was the whole mouth. It was the whole shebang.
This was when I went the other day and I bought stinging honey garlic wing sauce.
That sounds delicious.
I couldn't get the cap off. I just took a butcher knife to the top of that plastic cap. And I nearly stabbed myself between the fingers at one point, and my soul left my body until I realized I had not, in fact. And it was like that for me. My soul left my body, but no damage was done.
We both say, no bloody massacre, bigger than paper cut. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Bloody Podcassacre.
Please join us again next Wednesday when we'll be doing this bullshit all over again.
If you would like, and we would love, if you could go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are at Podcassacre. And if you would like to send us a message, tell us what movie we should do next. We've gotten some great recommendations so far, and we are definitely looking forward to adding to them to the what seems like ever-ending schedule of scary movies that we can do. You can email us at thebloodypodcassacre@gmail.com or slide us a message in the DMs.
Get into those DMs.
We've gotten a couple, and we appreciate every single one of them.
We really do. And you can also find us on YouTube at The Bloody Podcassacre. Even if you're listening elsewhere, I would recommend just going to subscribe to the channel because we do plan to create other content someday on that channel outside of just episodes. And if you wouldn't mind, leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts. We super appreciate the ones that are there so far. That's it. That's all. Until next time.
Good luck, Jackson.